Continuing on with the changes that the Georgia Association of Realtors has made to their contract package coming out July 2024. Hi, everybody. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors and the director of the Real Estate Academy of America. And today's video I'm going to cover the changes that the GAR, Georgia Association of Realtors Forms Committee, has made to the buyer brokerage agreement and the agreement of the buyer to work with the broker as a customer. So the documents a buyer signs to work with their broker as either a client or a customer. Please be sure to watch all the other videos I have done in this series on the changes that GAR has made for their mid-year revisions. There are quite a few in light of recent events. This video is being recorded early June 2024, and the contract revisions will be available to agents as of 7/1/24. So I will link the other videos below, or check out the playlist on the YouTube channel. I think it's about there, or just check out videos and you'll see the rest in this series. Thank you so much for your time. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any videos in this series or any of the videos I do on contract tips, license law, ethics, things like that. So let's dive in. Oh, additionally, please be sure to take one of our free continuing education classes through the Real Estate Academy of America, where our instructors will go through all of these changes in more depth, with not only describing the changes, but the interpretation and best practices. And I believe I'm going to do another video on best practices, especially for some of the new forms that GAR has come up with, namely the broker compensation agreement exhibit. So stay tuned for that video and let's dive in. Today's topic are changes that the Georgia Association of Realtors, or GAR, has made to the buyer agreements. I am going to cover the exclusive buyer brokerage engagement agreement. The changes on this form are the same that they have made to the non-exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. The exclusive is F110 and the non-exclusive is 113. And stay tuned, I'm going to go over the customer acknowledgement as well. So as previously mentioned, you will know if any form you are using from the GAR contract package is one that came out in January of 2024 or has been a revision as of July 2024. At the very bottom of the form, you will see this date. If it says 7/1/24, it has been revised. If it has not been revised, it will still say 1/1/24. So the first revision is just a minor one. This is the same in the seller brokerage agreement. They changed the word broker to buyer's broker. They further specified this. As expected, the majority of changes have to do with the compensation from the buyer to the buyer's broker, especially in light of everything that has been going on in the news. GAR has made the changes to the brokerage agreement. So paragraph 4, new title to the paragraph. As previously mentioned in the other videos, throughout the entire GAR contract package, instead of saying commission, the term compensation is being used. So paragraph A4 states compensation for professional services of the broker. New title for the paragraph. Brand new subparagraph A, generally. Compensation to brokers is negotiable and is not set by state law. That is in direct response to the NAR settlement agreement. This is being recorded early June 2024. This contract revision is coming out, available to agents as of July 1, 2024. The NAR settlement agreement has been preliminarily approved. We are by the courts, and we are expecting final approval by December 2024, and then approval from the Department of Justice, or DOJ, also in December of 2024. But based on the preliminary approval, that was part of the agreement, is it has to be disclosed to consumers that compensation to brokers is negotiable and not set by state law. The GAR buyer brokerage agreement, as in the seller brokerage agreement, continues on. However, this does not obligate individual licensees and brokerage firms to necessarily negotiate their compensation. And then paragraph B is what you are used to, compensation to buyer's broker. GAR has had this in our buyer brokerage agreements for years. Georgia is way ahead of other states, as I am learning regarding disclosures of negotiability of compensation and disclosing it to the public. Compensation for buyer's broker. Buyer agrees to pay buyer's broker the compensation set forth below at the closing of any contract to purchase, expressed as a % of the sale price, expressed as a flat fee, or other. New subparagraph A4C. Conceptually, this has been in our GAR brokerage agreements. It's expressed a little differently, and there is some added verbiage. So the new paragraph C, for the mid-year revision 2024, states optional compensation from seller or seller's broker to buyer's broker. Buyer hereby approves or disapproves. Agents, make sure you do not leave this blank. Check one of these boxes. Buyer hereby approves or disapproves of the buyer's broker receiving compensation from the seller or seller's broker. Nothing herein should be interpreted as a promise by the seller or seller's broker to pay or offer to pay compensation to buyer's broker herein. If the buyer approves of such compensation being paid by the seller and or the seller's broker to the buyer's broker, the maximum amount the buyer's broker may receive from the seller and or seller's broker is as follows, expressed as a % of the sale price, flat fee, or other. Again, agents, point of practice. This verbiage is in here, this maximum amount that the buyer's broker may receive. Your buyer, whether that be a customer or a client, must approve of that. This is in direct response to one of the terms of the NAR settlement agreement. Do not leave this blank. This is in here to cover any seller side offered bonuses. Additionally, per the NAR settlement, it may not be open-ended. In other words, you can't simply say any bonus offered by the seller side. It must be either specific or determinable. Okay, Dana, what do you mean by determinable? You can't have it open-ended. So it could be expressed, again, it's an upper limit. You have to put a ceiling on that. So it could be expressed as the maximum amount a buyer's broker may receive from the seller and or the seller's broker. So this is important in your consultation with the buyer. This is not coming from the buyer side, but if the seller or the seller's broker is compensating the buyer's broker, the maximum amount basically of the total commission or compensation cannot exceed, cannot be greater than, and again, % flat fee or other. Do not leave this blank, or buyer's agents, you will not be able to accept any bonuses offered by a seller on top of any commission. Then the next paragraph, subparagraph D, again, this concept has been expressed in our GAR contracts for several years. It's just reworked a little bit for more clarity to the public and for compliance with the NAR settlement agreement. It states possible reduction in buyer's compensation obligation of buyer's broker. Any compensation buyer's broker receives from the seller or seller's broker, don't leave this blank, shall, first option, reduce the compensation the buyer shall pay to the buyer's broker dollar for dollar. Second option, not reduce the compensation the buyer shall pay to the buyer's broker. Or the third option, special exceptions to the compensation paid from buyer to buyer's broker set forth below. So whatever the buyer agrees to pay your broker at closing, if the buyer, so you put that up first, the buyer's obligated to pay your compensation at closing. However, the buyer can say, okay, broker, but I allow what my obligation to pay your fee, your compensation, to be offset by whatever I agree that you, my broker, can also accept compensation directly from the seller or the seller's broker, and that cannot exceed a certain amount. If I allow you, my broker, buyer's broker, to accept compensation from the seller's side, that amount does offset my obligation, or that's on top of what you're going to get paid from me, or special exceptions. That's how those three subparagraphs work together. The rest of this has not been changed. Continuing on with the mid-year revision, in the corresponding paragraph B4, again, it's a new title to the paragraph, compensation for professional services of the broker, and it states buyers shall be obligated to pay buyer's broker compensation referenced herein at closing. Goes on to say compensation in any real estate transaction is negotiable and can be paid by any of the parties in a real estate transaction. There are times when the seller or seller's broker in a real estate transaction may offer to pay the buyer's compensation obligation to the buyer's broker. Again, just further clarification. Additionally, in the buyer brokerage agreements, and again, this is in the exclusive and the non-exclusive, and this new paragraph is throughout the GAR contract package. This is in response to disclose to our public the Georgia law, and it is disclaimer regarding the purchase of certain property. Buyer acknowledges that Georgia Code 217 prohibits certain non-resident aliens, foreign persons, foreign companies, and U.S. companies owned by any of the above from buying or possessing certain land within a 10-mile radius of any military base, military installation, or military airport. If buyer fits into one of these above categories, buyer agrees to carefully read the entirety of the above reference code section before contracting to purchase such land. Buyer should consult with legal counsel to fully understand the law. If buyer has not submitted written questions to broker regarding the law to the broker prior to contracting to purchase prohibited property, buyer acknowledges that buyer fully understands the limitations and requirements of the law, and broker shall have no responsibility for further doing the same. In such event, buyer shall indemnify and hold broker harmless from any and all claims, causes of action, suits, and damages arising out of or relating to buyer's failure to comply with the law. Violating the law can subject buyer to civil and criminal penalties. The law also requires certain sellers and others to divest themselves of such property within certain time periods if they are now no longer legally able to purchase such property. And again, with all of the forms, the change has been made that the licensee is signing this agreement on behalf of the broker. The licensee warrants that licensee has full authority to sign this agreement and bind the broker hereto. Your authority as an agent given to you by your broker, that is an issue to be discussed with your broker. Either it's allowed for in your independent contractor agreement or in a policy of your broker, especially with respect to compensation. You're an affiliated licensee, affiliated with your broker. All contracts are in the name of your broker. All compensation is earned in the name of your broker. Therefore, negotiating compensation, you must have the authority given to you by the broker to sign any documents related to that, or you will need your broker signature. Agents, that's an issue to be addressed with your broker. All right, so that is the buyer brokerage agreement, and that is in the exclusive and the non-exclusive. If you like that video, check out the one here. If you like the content on this entire channel, please click here to subscribe. I try to take even the most complicated of real estate situations and make them crystal clear. See what I did there? Real estate made crystal clear. Thank you guys so much for watching.